Welcome to WROL Broadcast. I am Hate Mail. With me today we have the world famous Ogre Barbarian.
Hello.
If you are a longtime listener of the show may not be the show for you as we are going to be doing an episode. So if you are a brand new player to DCL or relatively new, been playing a couple weeks, couple months, you will find this episode highly informative. Something we tend to cater towards late game more than anything else. Ogre's done a lot of new content on Gear 8, but something we wanted to do for a good while was kind of just go to the very, very basics and talk through. If you're new to this game, this is a great episode for you to just we're going to walk through every ounce of the game so you understand it and move forward.
Yeah, we wanted to have that video ready that, hey, I'm a new player, where do I start? Here, try this. If that doesn't help, let us know, but it should.
So what we're
You
going
know,
to do is we're just going to kind of go through the all the different screens, all the different tabs, just kind of talk through what everything is. So when you go onto your first home starting screen, actually back up a little bit, just kind of if you've never played DC Legends before, this game is like, what's the best way to describe it? A hero collector,
it's a hero
turn-based,
collector.
yeah, turn-based hero collector.
It's an RPG hero collector. It is very akin to the original Final Fantasies, where you're turn-based and you're based on your speed movements. So if you ever played the Final Fantasies with the ATB bars, you're used to how this game is going to work.
And
So
so on this game, there's a lot of stuff on the main screen, a lot of buttons. They all kind of do different things. I would say the most important tab, or the tab you'll probably go into more often than anything else, would be the hero tab at the very bottom middle.
yeah,
So you want to start there, Ogre.
yeah. The Heroes tab is where your roster. So whenever anybody asks about your roster, that's what they're asking for is your Heroes tab, um, and it houses all of your characters, and you can click on each individual character to go into individual upgrades. What kind of cover? Do we want to cover the anatomy now?
Yeah, let's go ahead and cover the anatomy. So when you go into your heroes tab, you'll see whatever heroes you currently have unlocked after you've gone through the tutorial. I don't remember. What characters do you get in the tutorial again?
In the tutorial, okay. So the very first two characters you get are Hal and Zatanna, and then I think you also have Batman unlocked, or you unlock Batman right as you start the actual campaign because you have that first mission where you're Lex Superman beating up on Hal. Um, you unlock Hal from that. You have Zatanna, and then you get Batman at the start as well. So you start with those three, and then you immediately get Sinestro and Green Arrow and Flash fairly quickly. So you end up with those six to start with.
So when you see the characters, you'll notice there's also a filter tab. The filter lets you filter between what's called affinity and ogre if you want to kind of go through what affinity is before we get into
Yeah,
the
so the
characters.
affinities by color, you have red, which is physical. Um, don't think too deep into these. Some of these are just like, wait, what? It just means that they are characters who have an affinity for physical-based violence. So characters like Joker, he has no superpowers of whatsoever. He's a physically, he punches you with a crowbar kind of style. And then you have energy, which is green. These are your superpowered individuals, typically aliens or alien source or biotech is another one that can be energy. And these are the characters like the Lantern Corps, Superman, those are the kind of characters you're going to get out of that. And then the last one is blue, which is mystical. And these are the characters that have, origins drawn in magic and mythology. These are your characters like Wonder Woman and Zatanna, who have their, ties to either mythos or arcane energies. And those are where your affinities kind of lie in the game.
And where affinities are important in game, you won't need to worry about this too much very early, but or I guess
Yeah.
fairly
Well,
quickly.
this is the rock paper scissors of the game, so
Exactly.
it's something to understand.
Yeah, so physical
Uh,
strong against mystical, mystical strong against energy, energy strong against physical. So
right.
when you're compiling a roster, you don't want to
You
go
want to
too
even it
heavy.
out to an
Yeah,
extent. You don't want to go all energy. because then you're just going to run into a mystical team that's going to hurt you.
There's really
But
no, other than that, alien or Earthling, female or male, doesn't really matter. There
that's
is,
just for the blitzes, and if you want to make sure you're evened out on your roster for those,
which
I
we'll
think
talk
more
about
than
blitzes
anything.
later. So, and then
Right. But if you know, okay, I'm looking specifically for Ravager, you can go, okay, I want a villain, I want a female, I want an Earthling, and leave all those. And I know it's physical, so I'm going to clear those, and I'm going to clear all the other ones. And then it should pop up a very small list for you to look at.
and then there's also going to be one slight gear difference between hero and villain, which we'll get into later as well. So let's
It's a
look.
gear. Is it a gear difference though? It's not
Well, not
gear.
gear. It's a, um,
Abilities.
yeah, in their
The-
superpowers. A
yeah.
ring. They're called rings, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Let's start with. We'll get into that actually now. Let's start with gear. At normal characters have probably the most important thing to increase your power on a character is your actual gear.
Yeah.
So,
6 slots up in the top left corner,
and those can
and
go all the way
you
to gear 11 from
right,
gear 1.
right. You start with 0. So you have 6 pieces. Each one of them will increase a basic stat of some sort or a hidden stat. And the difference between those is the basic stats you can see when you click on the character's power and stat icon versus the hidden stats you cannot see unless you go into each individual piece of gear and add them all up. Little time consuming to do it. Just know that they're there and they do affect the game slightly.
And they're the most important when you were looking at making a character powerful. But as a new player, you want to be careful. You don't want to take just one character all the way to gear 11, or
No, you definitely do not.
that can mess you up. A lot of people, you want to kind of you want to keep a team of at least 4, preferably 6,
I
right around
recommend between 6 and 9.
the same level. And that's when you're looking at the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see the levels. A character's max level can be up to 80, which your
Right.
character you can't.
You cannot pass your player level,
Correct.
so keep that in mind also. So if you're level 52, your max character, even if you have the materials for it, can only be level 52.
There's also an ability you'll notice underneath the character level. It's called Rebirth. Once you have a character level 60, they have to be gear 11 too, correct? Or
No,
gear 10.
I don't think gear matters. Might be 10. I don't know. But they have to be L5.
Yeah, they have to be legendary rank 5, which if you notice on the bottom right-hand corner,
Is the equivalent of rank 10.
the ranking system. Let's explain that a little bit.
Stars on your
Yeah.
characters.
So
Uh,
you'll see the 5 stars. Those are each rank. So you can be rank 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which unlocks your superpowers, which is in the top right-hand corner. Once you're rank 5, you can go to legendary, and if you'll notice on your superpowers, each of those skills can be ranked up. They they
Ascended.
they can be ascended to a legendary power, legendary 1, which maybe one day they'll be a legendary 2. That'd be kind of interesting. But
Well, some powers have 2. That's where that comes in.
oh yeah, that's true. A lot of characters have kind of done away with that, but there are
Most
still a handful.
characters who only had 4 moves and now have 5. There are still a handful of really good ones who do only have 4, one of them being Bane, but we'll get into those in a bit.
And then once you're at legendary 5, you can do what's called rebirth. You can rebirth up to 5 times. As a new player,
Right.
don't worry about rebirth right now.
It won't happen anytime soon.
Yeah, the
To
resources
be fair,
involved.
Legendary 5 won't happen anytime soon.
Yeah, the resources
Uh,
involved are pretty intense. I mean, if you're a heavy spender, that's another
well,
thing to
it
mention.
depends on how much you want to dedicate yourself to the game,
Yeah, the
right?
time and money. But
Yeah,
note that this game, if you are wondering, this game is very, very friendly to somebody who
very
doesn't want to
friendly.
spend any money on the game.
Like, I've spent a little bit on this new account, but it wasn't even to do gems and stuff. It was like literally I bought the Lex Luthor President skin because I love Lex Luthor as President Luthor.
And if you're new to the game, and you're wondering what Ogre is referring to. He used to have a high account. He hasn't really played. I don't know if you're even. Do you play it at all now?
No, I haven't in the last like 2 weeks.
So Ogre has been making new accounts lately, and he's having a lot of fun in Gear 8. So most people, the game kind of starts for them, but not really starts, but they they go to Gear 11, usually go to level 70 to level 80, somewhere in that range, and just
Yeah.
stay there. You can kind of say whatever gear rank you want until you feel you're ready to make the next jump.
I know people on the Reddit who are Gear 2,
Yeah,
have every character at Gear 2, but they're like Legendary 4,
and the
and they
game.
have beaten the entire campaign with Gear 2 characters. I'm like, that's insane.
So
There's a lot of patience.
superpowers, each one of those you can rank those up usually 8 or 9 times, depending on the first two are typically 9, the last three are typically 8. That is powerful,
Those
and it
are
makes
also tied to your levels.
those are also tied to your levels. I would put that as a lower importance to gear. Some powers it
I
makes
think
it
it depends on the character
yeah,
and it depends on what power.
but
Because if you look at a character like Green Arrow, his basic attack will apply agility downs, but it won't do it right away. You have to upgrade it once or twice.
and those are very expensive resource wise to increase. So you want to be a little more picky and choosy and slower
Yeah,
to
you
do
want to be
those.
sure.
And then that pretty much I think covers everything on the main screen.
Well, you also have their
With
bio. If you're interested, you can read a little blurb about where the character comes from and stuff like that. You also will see their power score, which is right underneath their stats button. If you wanted to see their stats displayed, you can click on that. It'll show you what their basic stats are, both their base and their gear level stats. Um, the
now
power level is a culmination of kind of all of those. We still haven't figured out the exact number system for that, so don't ask.
and power score really doesn't mean a whole lot in like if a character has a higher
It,
power
it,
score than another, that doesn't mean they're better. It's just
right.
kind of
That's not what that means. The things that it does affect, we will cover later on as they become relevant as we're talking about them. We'll say, hey, keep your power score in mind. This is what it's going to be relevant to.
and also when you become legendary with a character, your skin changes, and then you can pay 1,000 gold to change it back, or it's free when you rebirth a character, in case you're wondering.
Right.
And you
Or
will
if
get
you unlock a
skins.
skin,
Skins have
or
become
if you
it's a newer
unlock a skin,
feature as of the recording of this episode that they've had for
it's been out
actually
for
it's
like six
yeah it's
months.
been 6 months or so that they've added skins. So and they've been coming out with some cool new ones. So that's something to just pay attention to. All right, so
Yeah.
we will move out of the heroes tab and maybe start with the campaign because that's what new players are going to spend the majority of their time on.
Yeah, the campaign is going to be the one that you probably spend the majority of your time in, um, at least for the early and mid game. You'll spend less time as you go later on until you get into an alliance, and then you'll spend just as much time, if not more.
Exactly.
The campaign is the little, what is it, a triangle with
Yeah.
Hal Jordan standing next to it?
Well, no, it's like a circular thing that Hal Jordan's standing at, pushing buttons.
Oh, right, it's the console.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's right in the middle of the screen.
Oh, the triangle's PvP.
Yeah.
What am I thinking? Yeah, Hal Jordan is standing next to the campaign icon. So that's the easiest way to identify it, is that you'll have Green Lantern standing next to it. A cool thing of note, all three of the characters in the Citadel, when you unlock their legendary form, those three characters will upgrade as well.
And their skins will change when you change their skins too.
Yeah. So if you, for whatever reason, unlock a Black Lantern skin for Hal Jordan and put the Black Lantern skin on your character that you use, the one in the Citadel is also the Black Lantern skin. So they are directly tied, which makes me really interested. I want to put other characters in places, but they haven't done that yet.
Yeah,
But anyway,
that's another discussion for another day. But
right?
so in the campaign, there's two modes, normal and heroic. Do they
Yep.
unlock the heroic when you beat them the first time? I can't even remember.
You have to beat them on normal.
Okay.
You have to beat them. You don't have to clear them on 3 stars. You have to just beat them. So if you barely skinny your teeth get through, you can still go through the heroics.
And 3 stars really means nothing. Like there's no difference between 1 star or 3 stars. The game doesn't care.
Wrong.
No?
It's whether or not you can speed force it.
Oh, okay. So you do have to. And Speed Force.
You've had it 3 stars for forever, so you don't
Yeah,
remember.
exactly. I think it didn't matter
have
a
to
long time ago, but now I don't know.
It might not have when the game first
Yeah.
started, but yeah.
And keep 'em- this game's almost 4 years old, but going strong. So
Yeah, no, it's not any showing any signs of age really. It's gotten nothing but better. So,
and
um,
the
go
big
ahead.
thing with heroic mode is that you can then get shards of characters when you hover over them. They will have characters and shards. So you tend to want to stick to heroic modes for characters that you want once you can afford it and run it, even if it means running lower lower tier areas. But just keep in mind, the higher they are, the more resources they're going to give. So when you these are probably the XP meta agents that drop. They are what you use to level up your characters, and those are extremely rare the further you get.
Yeah. The higher in level you go.
Yeah. And the final node of normal does
Yep.
drop
For each chapter.
it does drop green willpower, which you need to upgrade your superpowers, which we'll kind of get into that in a little
You
bit
get a
here.
lot of that.
Yeah.
Something I do want to just note real quick. You're going to hear certain terminology, and we haven't really been explaining ourselves very well yet. If you go on the Reddit, you go on the Discord, you go on the CC, there's certain terminology and shorthands that people are going to use.
And the CC is the community center in the game. So,
Right. That exactly explains my point.
yeah.
um, some of the terminology you're going to hear us reference, you may not understand right away. We'll do our best to explain it. Like something I want to just touch on real quick. When we were talking about the ranks for the characters, you have 1 through 5, which are referred to as R1 through R5. When you become legendary, which is technically 6 through 10, it's referred to as L1 through L5. When you rebirth, which is 11 through 15, it's RB1 through RB5. Those are just the shorthand. So if you're trying to help everybody understand where you're at and what your character rankings are, understanding that is a big one.
And we also have, if you go to the notes section of this episode and any of the episodes, if you're listening to WRL Broadcast, we have a legendary order guide that we recommend. So if you can only get a character to legendary 1, these are based, it's geared primarily more towards endgame play, but we rank the legendaries in the most useful to least useful. And it may not apply to you as to what necessarily the best one is, but give it some thought if the one you're looking at is the one we put as fifth, because you may think, I probably, maybe that isn't as good as it sounds.
And we do try to give logic when we're reviewing characters. You know, it's like, hey, we like this on paper, but when we tried it, it wasn't all that useful.
Right.
Sometimes that's the case. So there's more to it than that. If you see something that you disagree with, I recommend that you just go to the Reddit, go to the Discord, go to the community center, and just ask the question real quick and get the logic behind it if you can't find it. So,
So back to campaign briefly.
yeah,
When you
sorry.
clear the campaign, you get quite a few Superman shards, correct?
You get to unlock him, yes.
So just unlock, or is he a little higher than that, I thought?
Uh, okay, so things have changed quite a bit since we first started. When we first started, you just unlocked him. I think it might have got him to 5 stars. But anyway, now when you first start the game, you have a 1 month calendar that is supercharged. And whoo, buddy, you will not see a calendar like that ever again. But it's a supercharged calendar. I highly recommend you log in every day you can, get all those fragments of Superman, get all those gems, get all those resources. Because when you start getting to normal calendars, they're a little different. Every month it changes what character's on it, and the gem values are slightly different. Just because in the first month they give you a ton of stuff. But if you log in with that calendar and you unlock all of the campaign modes, I think you can get a legendary Superman pretty easily.
So that's as a new player, that's probably your first goal is just clear the campaign, as that is, try.
I wouldn't say that's your first goal, but it's definitely on the priority list.
Yeah, build up your
Fairly high.
you're going to build your roster to try to clear that campaign to
Yeah.
eventually have it done, because you're going to run that campaign every day for the rest of your days in DC Legends. So,
Because that's where you get the majority of your resources.
right. And it also, when we get to alliances, it will play a big part of that as well.
Exactly.
So next up, let's talk about just two quick ones that'll be easy. The collector. The
All right, so the
collector,
Essence Collector.
yes.
That's where Zatanna is standing. It it either has a little green orb or it doesn't. When it has the green orb, you can touch it and collect the essence. When it doesn't, you can't. And you can click on it, and it'll show you how long until it's charged. This fully charges it in 8 hours, and it isn't a ton of resource. It's just something that they have in the game it's cool. Sometimes it'll get you the last couple hundred you need if you don't have any energy to do a campaign mission or something, but most of the time you're going to click it and not even notice what it's doing.
Which also, that goes into my next area, which let's move over to the missions tab.
Right. You're going to click on this a couple of times a day and collect the different missions or figure out what you need to do for your daily tasks.
And one of them is to collect essence from that essence
Yep.
collector.
So you're going to do it.
You get a decent amount of resources from it, and then once you
Yeah.
complete all of them on the first screen, there's legendary missions that give you even harder.
Way better
Yeah, it's a
and
little
way
harder.
harder.
Some of those to complete, you may have to. You don't have to spend real money, but you have to smartly use your gems, which we'll get into that later as well.
Yeah. hmm And if you're looking for a guide on how to complete these missions and stuff, there are Reddit articles, there are posts in the CC, there's resources everywhere to do that. We're not going to go into it on this because this would make this episode like 3 hours long.
Exactly. Next on the list is the Void Scanner.
And the Void Scanner is, honestly, I still don't like it because I'm not a fan of casino-style events. It's basically a little spinner. You spin it, and you get a random reward off of it.
They did in the last couple months make it more
It's gotten a lot
lucrative.
better. No, I
Yeah.
agree. It's, again, just a personal thing. I don't like the RNG. It's not kind to me.
I get Blue Hope a lot, which is a very rare resource, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. So I
Okay,
like it.
so I want to clarify something about Blue Hope. It is rare for you at your level. It is not rare for me. I have like 300 of them sitting there, and I have no green.
Yeah.
So it just depends on where in the game you are.
Yeah, certain resources you're like, oh, I'm never going to use all this.
And then you suddenly use it all, and you're like, where'd it go?
Yeah, you'll suddenly be deprived of certain resources. So
Yeah.
you'll see as you go along, though, and that really doesn't matter as much. Then let's move over to upgrade events because that is kind of the next.
This is your big one. The Batman giant monitor computer. You really need to pay attention to this screen. This is the one where you're going to be going every day to collect certain pieces of gear, legendary essence, ability materials, which are those hope rings and will rings that we're talking about. And those are open every day.
So for hero
Everything's
power,
open on Sunday, so
yeah,
you get a double dip.
they're different. They're different cycles. If you want to know if your question is, what should I spend my gems on? This is it. You want to spend it on gear.
The short answer is the upgrade events.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's going to be certain exceptions to the rule, but the upgrade events, the biggest thing is the gear, which you'll see. So if you say you're working on Hal Jordan, the absolute energy event is the one where you farm green materials. The best nodes to farm, for the most part, are the first node, third node, and fifth node, depending on which gear you need.
The one that give you mostly guaranteed materials.
So you can,
Now,
when you're
as
in
an
the hero
early player, sorry, go ahead. I want to.
Yeah, if you're in the hero tab and you're looking at gear on a character, you can actually click on that gear that you need to farm up, and it will tell you which nodes it's available on. So you can kind of track how many you need.
Mm-hmm. It also indicates which campaign nodes you can farm, which is a great way to augment it and pick up a couple pieces if you need to.
It can be a little more expensive to do it that way, but you'll also gain other materials. So it's another way
This
to
is
do it.
also getting you XP materials and essence, and you need essence to run the gear events. So, it all ties together. You kind of have to balance it. It's really interesting. I love the way the game balances everything because it forces you to kind of think about it if you're going to be a heavy spender. But
Now you can
But all that
also,
aside, I
uh,
just wanted to cover real quick.
yeah, go ahead.
Gear 1 and 2 require level 1 materials. That's it. Gear 3 and 4 require 1 and 2. Gear 5 and up require the third tier of material. Now, the tricky part is in the early game, you're going to be able to clear Node 1, clear Node 2, and that'll get you your Gear 1 and your Gear 2 materials. Clear Node 3, get your Gear 2 materials. You're going to do that pretty easy for the most part. You're going to have a little bit of a problem in the physical event. Node 3 of the physical event is going to wreck you. I promise. So focus on the energy and the mystic events for gear, and gear up those style of characters to help you complete the campaign so that you can farm a little bit of gear for your physical characters from campaign to help you clear out the rest of the campaign event, or the physical event. Because otherwise you won't be able to do it without being extremely overleveled.
Now on to superpowers in the event. You'll have the essential powers and the fearsome powers. The essential powers, the only difference between the two is that the essential gives you
It's the
the
last node.
the very last node, which you don't have to worry about until you're, I want to say level 60-ish, around that in that range on
Yeah,
characters.
somewhere in there.
Which you probably won't worry about too much. You're gonna have there'll be life energy for hero characters, and then in the
Which is a
fearsome
white
powers,
ring,
there'll be
and
the
then a
death
black
energy.
ring.
There'll
Yeah.
be the black ring. Those are pretty rare,
You
but
don't need a ton of them
yeah,
per character by comparison to the others. In the early game, you're going to focus on Node 2, and that is all you're going to do.
yeah. And later on, you'll worry about red rings. You'll have more than you ever know what to do with
You'll
late
never
game.
worry about red
Yeah. So blue
because
is
they
the
come in from the red comes in from the login bonus, as well as the void scanner can drop it. You'll have more than enough red, and you should never have to farm it for in need of it. You're gonna need the green, the blue, and the white or the black.
and the blue later game when you played for a while would become pretty scarce, but early on, it's usually not too bad.
Yeah, early on I'm not having a problem. I'm having more of a problem getting the green, but I also don't farm it from campaign, so which I probably should.
The other main area where you'll spend the majority of your time is PvP.
Yep.
Early game you may not play a ton of it, but it's still
I don't even recommend you play a ton of it in the early game.
but you
Just
will
because,
get
well,
you
let me
get
explain why.
sure.
Um, in the early game, if you cross a certain threshold in PvP, you will all of a sudden be thrown into the pool, the very deepest end of the pool, where it's all of a sudden whale country, and you're going to see teams that are 10 times stronger than you, and you're going to be like, well, I can't beat this. Why is the game giving me this? I'm so angry. This game sucks. No, it's because you crossed into the territory where you're now considered one of the top players. Try not to cross that threshold.
And
It
that's
is based on
where
your power. Before that, it's based on your power level, which, again, I said I was going to warn you when it mattered. Before a certain point, it's based on your power level. After you cross that threshold, it's whoever's in that threshold.
and that's where you want to run your two PvP battles for your mission. And
Right.
that's one of the missions. There's a legendary mission for 27. You probably very early game, you're probably not going to do those.
And honestly, the rewards you're getting that in the early game, you don't need them. Because it
Yeah.
gives you a couple of hope rings and a rage ring.
Once you're able to do
You
them, I
don't.
mean, you want to start stacking up those hope rings because those will become a roadblock later. But
Oh yeah, yeah.
when you're
No,
very early,
if
don't
you
worry about it.
have the intention of taking your roster to Gear 10, Gear 11, you're absolutely going to. But by the time that you're actually trying to do the 27 missions, you probably already have a Gear 9, Gear 10 roster, and you're able to compete in PvP a little bit better. So that's when it becomes relevant anyway. So
And that's where, if you're looking at the different energies that you get, there's going to be
basic blue energy.
the basic blue energy that's going to use to run your missions.
Yep.
That, and then you're going to have arena energy, which is what you'll use for
Red lightning
PvP.
bolt. Yep.
And then the speed force is just so you once you've 3 starred, or have there's certain items in the even in the
Right. If you 3-star any campaign or upgrade event, you can now speed force it to just click it, collect the materials that you would have gotten by running it.
and trust me, later on, once it becomes trivial content for you, you'll love having those.
Yeah.
So in PvP, there's multiple modes. If you're once you have a roster that can semi-compete, the gem blitzes can get you a decent amount of gems by not.
Even if you're just getting to the 100 points, you're getting 750 gems for very, very little effort.
So you definitely wanna do that. Wraith Arena is going to be, where you get new shards for newer characters, but it's not as important, or not newer characters. There's every week there's a new.
And it mostly is new characters for the players in the
Yeah,
early game.
they're older characters in a lot of cases, and they're characters from the previous month, but they're not they're
What
usually
character
they're
you're
going
going
to
to
be
have
characters
access
you
to
won't have.
usually. Yeah.
Then you'll also earn what the essence called. I can't remember the name of it.
Battle Essence.
Battle Essence, where there is,
Red Essence
and you'll be able to purchase things with that, which we'll get into in just a little bit. And
in the
then
shop. Yeah.
there is another type of blitz, showdowns, where you can earn shards of
Showdown.
characters.
Character. Yeah. And
The
again, you want to just at least get the 100 points to get, I think it's like 60 frags for free. Like, that's a rank 3 character. Let's do it.
Yeah, so that lets you unlock characters that you may want. And these characters, one of the things that's good or bad, however you want to look at it, is that sometimes certain characters, it may be a good while before you see a character again. So you
Yeah.
don't, if you have the
Well,
opportunity to pick up fragments, you want to grab them.
part of the reasoning on that, there's 134 characters in the game currently
Yeah, there's a ton of
as of
characters.
this month. So I mean, it's not like there's any shortage. So if you find somebody that you really like and there's a blitz or something on for them, go hard if you can. You may not get another chance for a couple of months or 6 months or a year, depending on what it is. Like, that's just how the game goes sometimes.
The last tournament type that we didn't mention was called Siege. This is the end game PvP mode. If you're able to compete and gain gain a little bit in there, like with all the other PvP modes, get as far as you can. You are limited in energy you can do. You're limited in energy you can buy per day. So it's,
I do not recommend you buy energy for this particular.
no, definitely not. Not
Like, you can buy energy for regular PvP, for blitzes, for showdowns and whatnot. Siege, don't even touch it until you fully understand what it entails.
Yeah, I mean you can use your energy every day just so it doesn't get wasted.
Oh, no, absolutely do that because you're getting a free shard every day, too, from the legendary mission for that Siege character. So
it's worth it. The difference between the PvP modes is the Mystic Gem Blitz has a fixed point scoring system that you can just continue to run and move up. Wraith Arena, it bases more on power level, so you'll see some discussion on the message boards. I wouldn't worry about this right now, but if you get too strong, you get lower points, and it kind of is a big.
It won't matter to you until you're into that level 60 gear 10-ish range again.
Right.
So you should understand the game by then.
And then Siege is very fixed scoring, and then you're punished for every time you lose a character significantly. And it's,
it is the end game content.
Yeah, it is the end game content of the game. So that is PvP. Now let's talk about red alerts.
Okay, so this is the beautiful, beautiful red alerts. This is where the majority of your early game farming is going to happen. Guaranteed. And I'll even go over specific characters here that you're going to want to focus. And this is the team that you're going to run, and you're going to always run it, and you're going to be happy, you're going to love it, it's going to be great. Red alerts. You're going to go through 12 nodes. You're going to get essence gems, and character shards. First 2 are essence, the third one's gems, the fourth one's character. It follows that pattern. First gems is, what, 30 gems first?
I don't know. How many, if you clear the whole thing, how many gems
50.
do you get total?
30, 40, 50, because it's 120 total.
Okay, that's what I thought. And it's a
30,
decent
40,
amount of
50.
shards, too. You get.
And then the shards is 5, 12, and 25. So it's a lot of shards. Those 25s almost unlock every character that you can get. There's a couple of exceptions, with Deathstroke and White Lantern Sinestro, which take 90. And I think even Arcus takes 90, now that I'm thinking about it.
And Arcus is a coveted character you're going to want.
Arcus is a very coveted character. He's one of those go-to characters that you're going to want.
He's insane.
At
the time of recording.
One thing of note is you're going to want to spend the 300 gems to reset red alerts on certain days for certain characters. The characters of note at the 25 shard slot are Arcus, Etrigan, possibly Power Girl. Those are like the big three. Any other character, if you like the character, you've been playing for a month or so, and you understand that this is a character that you want, go ahead, feel free to go ham and reset a couple times, get a few extra shards.
And so it moves up.
Those three are definite.
It's 300 gems each time. When you've been playing the game a long time, this is one of the cheapest methods to get extra shards. So this is, if you're spending gems, or if you're willing...
not only that, but you're gaining the 120, so
Yep.
It's only 180 gems to get an additional, 42 fragments total?
Yep.
So by far the best value in the game on shards or fragments, however you want to call them, versus energy and time and all the other things that you spend. It's a very short 12 matches, and you get a lot out of it.
As early game characters, what would be early game characters you'd want to focus on to be able to clear all 12 red alerts?
Okay, so the very, very first character you're going to want to focus on as soon as you have the opportunity, go into regular campaign, start farming survival support suit Lex Luthor. He has a leadership ability. He's the only character to have a leadership ability at rank 4 stars, total of 90 shards.
And
you want that. You
and he's
absolutely want
good.
that.
He's not even just good. He's fantastic, even in endgame. So
Yeah. And the reason that you want him is because his leadership ability, when it is unlocked, every time a character buffs on your team, your entire team receives an overheal. An overheal gives you a second bar of health. Very important when you're trying to do a survival mode like Red Alert.
because in red alerts, your health and your turn meter, when characters can go,
and your cooldowns
and all your cooldowns carry over.
between fights. Yep. So it's a survival mode. So you do get to pick which one you're fighting, which is the nice part. So we'll go into how to select in a little bit.
One thing to note about red alerts too, when your character dies, they're dead forever until you reset. So if you lose a character, that's why healing and shields. Hal Jordan's another good pick if you don't have Lex yet. He does carry his shields over, so that helps you survive.
Yeah, those are both really good leaders. I recommend Lex over Hal, but if you only have Hal, Hal is still a very good leader if you have him at rank 5. Other characters that you're going to want if you're building the Lex team, you're going to want Etrigan, you're going to want Arcus. Those two just flat out are the best DPS, but they also sustain themselves with either overheal or shielding, depending on which one you're using. Both of them absolutely amazing.
And they're monsters even in the highest levels of the game.
Yeah. So they're all around good. They're going to be amazing in campaign as well. So do not be afraid to spend a few extra gems to get more shards of them. It'll be well worth your time. Promise. The fourth character is going to sound a little bit odd until you start thinking about it, until I start explaining it. Hey, Mel, you're going to be like, what? Dr. Fate.
Yeah, I guess I could see that.
Well, let me explain why here. He's an early source of heal immunity, on his basic no less, that also provides a shield that has a buff. And it's a very large shield.
Which actually we should talk about the different buff types and debuff types here shortly, but let's finish the screen before we go through that, because we only got a couple icons left.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
So
okay, so the shielding is a percentage, and it's just If your health is 3,000 and you get a 50% shield, your shield value is 1,500. That's just a baser level of how to look at it. So it's really important. Dr. Fate drops like 30 some odd percent shields. It's huge. So, but he also buffs, which lets Lex trigger to overheal. Overheal goes on under the shields. So that's also important. These are your abilities to sustain. You have Lex and Dr. Fate sustaining you while Arcus and Etrigan are just beating everything in the face.
One of the other core sections is the hero challenges. This is probably, I would say, one of the most important things you want to try to do. Each month there is a free character that if you're able to complete the entire event, there's 2 versions. Once you complete both, once you're able to complete both, you could actually take a character as high as Legendary 5.
You have to get all days of login too.
Yeah, between that and all the days of logins, you can go to Legendary 5.
Because each event is 500 shards if you complete everything, and then the login calendar is 100. So
one of the other events that they do is they'll do a challenge for one of the characters, usually from the previous month that was reworked. So they take 2 characters every month. They release 2 new characters every month. One's free, and one is earned through the Siege tournament.
We call it free, but it's the one you get from the character event.
Yeah, I mean, it technically could be free. I mean, I guess it's not really
it's basically free. You just have to work for it.
Yeah. And then they take 2 additional characters that maybe weren't as good or not as good as characters, and they
needed some love.
They retool them and make them better. So those characters, usually one of those 2 from the previous month ends up being a challenge. You can farm.
Typically, it's the more rare one, but that doesn't always hold.
Yeah, it's kind of whatever one they pick. But they do. You can run it every single day, and then you can repeat it if you want. The final node on there and gain shards. This is a very
inexpensive. You can repeat any node, actually. It's just you don't want to repeat anything but the final node.
Unless you can't beat it and you really want that character.
Right.
So
there's exceptions to everything. So.
And this is one of the most cost-efficient ways to gain a character up. So it's especially the end game players that want to take characters extremely high in Rebirth. This is really the best way to do it.
Yeah.
And then they also do one other type of event where you can defeat it on. There's an easier version and there's a harder version, and you get a fixed amount of shards, which I think there's quite a few. I think it's what is it, 450?
550 if you complete both.
Yeah. So if it's a character you want, even if it's a character you don't want, I would recommend doing them if you have the resources. Get as far as you can.
Yeah, at least a little bit.
Because you never know when a character will fit a certain comp or become a character that you want. And these events are the best and most inexpensive ways to get characters. So you want to try to run them. They usually are pretty quick. You can do them in a short amount of time. And they only come, once a month. They do these events every single month, and very, very cost effective. You'll thank us later if you have been ignoring them, and you're relatively new.
Yeah, and when you're real new, these aren't going to be easy. They're going to be hard. You're not going to get a lot of fragments. The thing is that you're expanding the roster. The bigger the roster you have, the better off you're going to be, because every one of these events that we're mentioning has a limited roster of availability. There's only certain characters that can go into some of these things. So that's why we're saying you want to unlock characters. You never know when you're come to an event and be like, oh my god, I have nobody I can use. Why is this? Because that's how it goes. Like, they have to put some sort of restriction on it, so unlocking anybody you can is very important.
The other tab on the main screen is the Teams tab. This is just where you can kind of build teams and just set together different teams. We'll get into team building here in a few minutes.
Most of the time, you're not using the actual tab. Most of the time, you're actually building the team in the PvP screen or in the event screen, or you're not even using the tab, unfortunately, a lot. So
yeah,
but it's there
serve a lot of
if
purpose.
You want it.
Yeah, you can kind
of. Well, I mean, it's. I used it a lot when I was doing my crazy comps.
Yeah.
Because I would just flip through the different teams and have them already preset.
There's also a
But
mail tab in the upper left-hand corner. The game, this is
yep,
how they communicate with you with the newsletter. There's a social media tab. They tend to use Reddit a lot. So Reddit, if you're not on Reddit, I recommend getting on Reddit. You'll learn a ton of information. We have a really, really good community in this game. Like really
yeah.
good community. Best in any game I've ever seen. When the next thing you want to check out once you're, what level do you have to be to join an alliance?
30? No, 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 no. It's between 20 and 30.
Yeah, it's somewhere between, excuse me, somewhere between 20 and 30 alliances you want to join as soon as you're able. You can just,
Even if you get into a garbage one,
yeah,
just
just get
join
in
it.
one because you're going to get resources from it. This is where we kind of talk about you want to have as many characters as possible because when you're in an alliance, there's daily events that you're going to run to earn alliance essence and for your alliance to gain a stack ranking. So you'll see when you join an alliance, you'll see an alliance tab. They'll have missions to run with your alliance. There's certain characters that are worth 5 points, others are worth 2 points, then other ones that are worth one. When you run missions, not Speed Force, but you actually run heroic missions, you gain these points. And those points,
Or PvP battles, depending on the day.
yeah,
And
depending
it,
on
it, it shares it with you which one it is. So
And then you'll earn Alliance Essence, which there's an Alliance shop where you can buy shards of characters, you can buy gear, there's all kinds of stuff you can buy in there. So
it's
you,
literally one of the best resources you can get.
and there's a limited time offers that happen every 4 hours, and then there's packs you can buy. And when you're in a good Alliance, you get tons of this stuff. I mean,
Yep.
absolute
It's
tons of it.
really useful because it has what is it, 24, 20 characters that you can pick from in the offers or randomly pull in the packs. There's like 20 characters, which is huge because most of them, I think there's one or two of them that you can farm in campaign, but the rest of them are all pretty rare.
Yeah, you get
So
20 fragments out of 12 heroes, and on the large packs, and then yeah, there's 12 total. There's four common, four uncommon, four rare.
oh, I don't know why I was thinking it was more.
And then same thing for the arena packs. When you get arena battle essence, you can purchase. You don't have the daily purchase, but you can buy packs that have. There's 12 different characters. There's common, uncommon, and rare. A lot of times the common characters are really good characters that you'll need for the game. One of the ones
Yeah.
that's in these packs is Harley Quinn Mad Jester. She's an extremely good early game
And
taunting character.
and I don't care what anybody said, Cyborg is good
Yeah, Cyborg's, especially early game Cyborg's very good.
because he can take out Harley.
So So these are things to keep in
So
mind. If you don't have the characters, it's very hard to earn. So you want to get at least get the characters unlocked. You can have three strong characters and then, run that character very weak where you don't have them very geared to kind of get at least some points. So it's something to think about. And also being an alliance just makes the game way more fun. There is an
it
in-game
does.
chat feature. It's pretty terrible, but most good alliances or most alliances have a Discord or line chat or some other chat vehicle.
Some
So,
other chat, yeah.
and that leaves us into the last large game mode, which this one is one that you'll see once a month. You have to be level 30 to participate, and that is raids.
Yep.
These are not like raids you see in some games. You can spawn bosses by
Just
doing,
doing your normal stuff.
yeah, doing your normal stuff. You don't spawn bosses from PvP, but from any PvE centric event, farming
The
materials,
upgrade events, the campaign,
and
those little spawn bosses.
these bosses will randomly spawn. You'll get solo bosses. There's a solo leaderboard. They drop XP meta agents. It's a very, very good for resources. It can get
Yes,
expensive, but
it can
if you,
also get tedious,
yeah, it's
but the
raids.
amount of resources that you gain from this, holy cow.
It's huge. So, and then there's alliance bosses. So that's why you want to be an alliance because there's an alliance leaderboard. If you make it, to a certain threshold, you get lots of shards of the
Lots
character
of
that was
gems,
available in Siege. You'll get gems. You can get all kinds of stuff. So it's
legendary essence, tons of valuable resources.
And legendary essence, that's how you rank a character up. So from rank 1 to Legendary 1. You'll need Legendary Essence. It's pretty inexpensive in the early Legendary ranks, but to go to Legendary 5, it's a tremendous amount of Legendary Essence.
Yeah. And we didn't even cover any of the basics on how many frags to get to where and anything like that. If you're looking for any of that stuff, there are breakdowns on Reddit, on the community center for all of that.
And you'll see it gets more and more, it requires more and more as you get each one higher.
Yep.
The so the raids are definitely worth doing. Participate as much as you can. When you're in a top tier alliance, your entire life goes
Just,
to them for 4 days. So.
I mean, that's your fault, not mine.
So that can get a little tedious.
No, like, if you're in a good alliance and you're having communication, you're going to have a lot of fun with raids.
Yeah,
Just because everybody's like, oh god, there's another boss, kill it, do something.
you can also
It's
earn
going to be a lot
skins
of
from
fun.
it, but you do have to rank pretty high.
Yeah.
So that you'll worry about that later. The other tabs on your screen is the community center. This is just basically an in-game forum. Lots of good information, especially if you're a newer player. There's a lot of stuff on there. You can go in, you can chat with people, you can, post whatever, ask for advice, tips. People are generally very friendly in this game. Then there is one other tab that was recently added as of the time of this recording, which is the ads feature. It seems a little, gimmicky. Ignore the offer wall unless you see something there you really want to buy and get some free gems. But the main thing is there's video rewards, and it's a decent amount of green essence and gems. So you can get 3,000 gems
That
per
was
month.
15,000 essence a day,
That's
which is
15,
not
15 and then
insignificant.
30. So it's,
Oh, it's 45,000 a day.
yeah, 45. That's a lot early game.
That's a lot. And what is it, like 100 gems?
Yeah, so basically it will take you 2.5 minutes to get through all of them. So it's not
Well,
too
you
bad.
have to like a 5-minute wait between each one, but yes.
So
Like,
it's,
do an ad, go do something else real quick, do an ad, go do something else, do an ad, go do something else. You'll get through them real quick. They're super 30-second ads that you probably have seen on YouTube anyway. I've noticed myself, my ads are almost exactly the same as my YouTube ads.
yeah,
So,
but it's definitely worth your time just because it's a decent amount of resources. And then I would say let's talk about what characters you want to focus on. You mentioned a couple of them, Etrigan, Arcus, Power
mm-hmm.
Girl from Red Alerts. What about Lex Luthor? What about characters you want to farm on heroic nodes?
All right. So the campaign characters that I recommend are Lex Luthor, obviously, Hal Jordan, Cheetah, Chemo, Green Arrow, and Cyborg, I think, are probably the good ones. And then if you get later on in Chapter 5, Chapter 6, Dr. Fate and Hawk Girl are both really good. And then when you get to Chapter 8, finally, Black Adam.
Yeah, Black Adam's a powerhouse. I mean, he's
And
so
he's the
great.
literal last node. So it's going to
Yep.
be a while before you get there, and he's 50 to unlock. Once you get him unlocked, he's probably not even useful because the rest of your roster is going to be so advanced. Get him to Legendary 1, and he will become a powerhouse.
And judging by the amount of how long this episode's already gotten, do you want to do a part two for all the different attributes, debuffs, buffs, etc.?
Yeah, we can do a separate episode for breaking down like stats and buffs and stuff.
Yeah, so once you've listened to this episode, stay tuned
This is
for
just
part
all
two.
the basics.
Yeah, stay tuned to part two, and we'll talk about that so you understand what those abilities are and kind of what maybe we'll talk about a little bit like early basic PvP comps, and I'll get a little bit into that nitty gritty. And if you have
So
any other questions about this game, just
yeah, feel free to leave them in the comments.
leave,
We'll answer them,
leave them in the
and
comments.
then
Be
you
sure
can
to like
always
and
find us on
subscribe.
Discord and Reddit and stuff. You can always find us there too. So
And then we have be sure to like and subscribe our YouTube channel. It's YouTube/WRL Broadcast.
I mean,
And
if they're watching this, I can just hit subscribe.
yeah, or if you're listening to this on
Or if they're on
SoundCloud or
audio, that's different. Yeah.
on audio, we will have a video version. So we do all the new characters. We have all kinds of resources. A lot of it, like we said, is geared towards later game, but Ogre does do lower level stuff on YouTube frequently. And then you also at least get an idea of how these characters perform. Higher game, see if it's somebody you like, character you're interested in. So you can
Yeah.
kind of get some
And
thoughts.
there's nothing wrong with using a character because you like the way they look or you like their lore. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing saying you can't do that.
Yeah, you can
You
make
can
just about
absolutely
any
make
character
them.
work.
Yeah. So
There's a
except for maybe Blue.
handful that are a little harder. There are a handful that are much harder to make work than others, but for the most part, you can make just about everybody work. And they'll eventually get reworked if they're that bad.
Yeah, exactly. So, if Blue Beetle is your favorite character, go for it. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. I mean, I might, but
You might struggle a little bit if Blue Beetle is your favorite character, or Ra's al Ghul. Those two are in particularly bad place at the moment, but they'll
then
eventually.
again, I mean, you look at Chemo, who, after 3 years, finally got his rework from literally worst character in the game by most people's standards to an amazing top-tier character now all of a sudden. So, I mean, it does happen. So, may not be usable right now, but in the future, they may be great. Who knows? By the time you hear this video, Ra's al Ghul and Blue Beetle may be meta. We don't know.
Exactly. So, as of the recording of this is June 7th, 2020. We are recording this, so things may have slightly changed if you're listening to this a year from now. But also if you listen to this the day it released, keep an ear out for part 2, where we go into buffs, debuffs, and a few other items that may be very useful for newer players. And with that, I think we'll sign off.
Yeah, sounds
Thanks for
good.
listening.
Hey, I'm Joshua Ars. Thank you for listening to the WROL broadcast. If you like the show, consider becoming a Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/WRL broadcast and get early reviews on new characters. And for even more Legends action, check out my daily stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/JoshuaRs, where you can learn some great strategies and chat with the best players in the game.